Hey everyone, it's Teacher at Home, still here. Today I want to do another book review. This one is on John Steinbeck's masterpiece of Mice and Men. Mice and Men is one of these books. It carries such a punch. It's less than 110 pages in this version, and yet it's so packed full of ideas and meaning. Okay, it's one of those books that is considered a classic, and many people uh, I'm not sure why it's fallen out of favor so much. There are a lot of teachers that don't teach this book anymore. Um, but let's put that aside and get into it. All right. John Steinbeck's Of Mice and Men is truly a masterpiece. It's basically a book um, about one decent man navigating a world filled with broken people. One of the big themes in this book is disenfranchisement, um, ostracization, people being pushed out. Um, People throughout this book are broken. The famous characters of George and Lenny. George is a pretty decent guy, but when we meet him, he doesn't seem that decent. He seems like a mean guy. He's being mean to Lenny, who's a big, strong simpleton, right? We do find out that Lenny has something in the past where evidently something went on with Lenny that caused them to be chased out of town. We'll find out more about that later in the book. So I don't want to spoil the book for you, but let's take a look at how broken some of these characters are. We've got characters that are broken kind of mentally, like Lenny is slow. Okay, he's that which way did he go, George? Kind of guy. That's who he is exactly. That's Lenny, and this is George, right? Um, the characters in this book, we've got characters who have lost a hand in an accident, who've been kicked crooked by a mule. We have uh, a woman who is unhappy in her marriage. We have a man who's insecure. Like everybody in this book is broken, except for what it seems like the big boss, who seems like a decent guy. He's only there for a very short time. And George, who's navigating this world of people, all of whom have been broken in some way and who are trying to come to grips with the hard reality of Depression America. They're migrant farm workers, is who George and Lenny are back in the 30s, trying to get work, trying to get enough money to get to get a homestead, to get a stake together. They live for this dream at a time when people don't really seem to be having dreams. So George and Lenny have this dream that keeps them going throughout, that keeps them together. And what we find here is that George, as a character, really stands out because he takes care of someone else. And that seems to be a very rare quality in this day and age. There is another unbroken character, Slim, who's the foreman on the ranch. He seems like a pretty decent unbroken guy. Um, and the only guy when he's talking to George, you kind of get the feeling like these are two relatively sane, decent people in a world that's filled with strife and anger. And there's this undercurrent of violence throughout the book that certainly does come to a head. Uh, it's a short book, and just look at how packed it is with scenes and meanings. Everybody is disenfranchised, and yet there's even a more disenfranchised person there, the only African American character in this book. And yet, while he's disenfranchised and he's isolated, he still has created a safe little world for himself, very protected from outside. And George and Lenny's dream draws people in and they share it. And so some of these broken people get an actual opportunity to be part of this fantasy that George and Lenny bring to this very hard life on the ranch. Okay, a couple issues that may come into play. There is a short piece in here where the N word is dropped a whole bunch of times. Um, and that, of course, is kind of taking your hat off to the disenfranchisement felt by the black character in here, where they're just dropping the N word. It's kind of their everyday thing as they talk about characters who are black back in the day. Uh, and it's just, you get the feeling nobody's okay. Everybody has something wrong with them, and they're all worried about their future, those who can even think that far ahead. And you really get this feeling of people who are just scraping by, just surviving and doing that barely. John Steinbeck is one of the great American writers, and like many of his books, or most of his books, it's set here in California, where we are. His descriptions of the landscape are powerful and so accurate, and they really bring it to life. He's one of those writers who can really bring the image into your mind, whether it's a peaceful little place besides a creek, or it's in other books, the beautiful California mountainsides or the farmlands um, up around the area where he lived. This did win the Nobel Prize in Literature, deservedly so. And in all honesty, um, I taught this book in the ninth grade to my ninth grade students, and I really think every ninth grade student should read this book. It really gives them a sense of what can be done. The prose is simple and direct. There really is not any challenging vocabulary, and yet the world is lush and full and beautiful and created with this dynamism that only John Steinbeck can capture. So, if you find your child is reading John Steinbeck's Of Mice and Men, if you've heard of the book but you haven't picked it up and read it, go ahead and read it. It truly is one of the great books of American literature. Um, and with that, I'll wish you good reading. Once again, this is Teacher at Home signing out. If you like my channel, please like, share, subscribe, and let me know what books you'd like me to review. I have a whole list and I'm just going to keep going. So thanks again. Have a great day.